for your night you chose to come and see us. But with our night, as usual, we're getting ready to turn out for a drink. This is our road. But tonight it's your road and all. Don't feel awkward with us. Make yourselves at home. Right, come on. Let's shove off down the road to find out. We'll go down house by house.
Drama and theatre students at the University of South Wales are experimenting with a new performance aiming to promote Welsh culture and heritage. This comes after an open letter claimed the National Theatre of Wales was losing its national identity.
If money's been allocated to Wales, it needs to be spent on Welsh artists, not importing talent from England into Wales.
The recent debate revolves around issues such as social influences, cultural identity and funding. But how do we classify Welsh theatre, and what exactly is it?
Bisto asks you to glance around the room. There must be someone out there you've seen tonight and thought, should I?
The next generation of Welsh actors are being nurtured in colleges and universities across the country, and their new ideas could be important to promoting Welsh theatre. The experiment takes an established play, in this instance Jim Cartwright's classic play Road, and adapts it for a Welsh audience. But will it work? We'll catch up with the students later to see how they're getting on.
Dear Clive Jones, it is with extreme sadness that we wish to make known our discontent with National Theatre Wales. We feel it is time for a public discussion about the very purpose of the organisation. The direction of NTW, coupled with a lack of scrutiny, transparency and openness, has led to a worrying internal culture, which, despite the organisation's name, seems to take pride in ridding itself of a theatrical identity and even its
One of the
nationality.
40 signatories, Lisa Parry, is a playwright based in Cardiff. She is best known for her plays 2023 and Of Polar Bears and Unicorns. She believes that the theatre should be putting more attention on Welsh actors and directors.
It's a question of limited resources, basically. So if you look at the amount of lottery money that Wales gets compared to England, less than one borough of London, we just want a fair crack at the whip. If money's been allocated to Wales, it needs to be spent on Welsh artists, not importing talent from England into Wales. And they have to earn their money from the Arts Council. It's not just a given. We all have to fight and scrap for cash to actually do our job, but they have to deliver on it.
Although the letter claims that the theatre is ridding itself of its identity, funding and resources take centre stage for some.
We always are really, really conscious of the fact that we're a regularly funded organisation and that we're...
Morgan Tarrant-Cornish works as a casting associate for NTW. She says how the theatre's decisions are often influenced by funding.
And we're really, really mindful of that and of giving, of course, the public as much value for money out of the funding as possible.
Does that limit what you're able to do?
Of course, yeah. We have finite resources, so like everyone, we have to be really sort of conscious about how we're spending that money. Part of that being conscious is setting good examples and paying people well and looking after people and stuff like that. So we pay some of the best rates in the industry in Wales because we're funded to do so. But yeah, we are also comparatively, compared to, of course, the National Theatre of Great Britain and the National Theatre of Scotland, we're the least funded national theatre.
Rehearsals are well underway for the USW students' production of Road, but are already facing difficulties. Many of the original play's themes, although based in the north of England, are relevant to issues seen in Wales then and today. However, making the play speak to a Welsh audience is important to lecturer and director Steve Fisher, who knows there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because Road is very much set in the north. But of course, when you're dealing with student productions, you're very much obliged to work with who you've got. You're not casting as you would a professional show, choosing your actors in the same way. So, and I personally, I've always enjoyed making work reflect the place I live in. And I live and work in Wales and have done for many, many years. So for me, it's a natural instinct to want to skew the story to a Welsh theme, because I believe that we tell stories about where we are and where we're from.
With only a couple of weeks left to go, we'll find out later what progress, if any, the students have made in adapting their characters.
But for many, it was this spring's show, English, which felt like a final straw, and which triggered a widespread discussion behind closed doors. NTW described English as an investigation into language and identity. There is no version of the history of the English language in Wales which is not a history of its relationship with the Welsh language.
The director of the show was Richard Gregory, an English-speaking male from Manchester. Richard stated that he felt unable to comment on the debate as he had no knowledge of the Welsh language.
How those two languages forge our identity is arguably the defining characteristic of our nation, and yet English erased this crucial aspect of the story of English in Wales entirely and deliberately.
Many of those who signed the letter felt like the theatre had been neglecting Welsh talent. Yet the debate soon began over the role of the National Theatre of Wales. Questions were asked whether the theatre should be promoting Welsh-only work or meet the needs and desires of the audience. Morgan believes it is the theatre's responsibility to reflect the important topics discussed within the Welsh communities.
For me personally, I feel like the kind of core function of theatre is to ask what's going on. So that's what's going on within ourselves, what's going on in society, within our relationships, what's going on socially and politically, and that's obviously there are really some urgent questions to be asking ourselves about what's going on in the current kind of social political climate. Drawing out the stories that are most vital here and now about what it is to be living in Wales now, and of course to be living in Wales now is to be living in a United Kingdom, is to be living in Europe, is to be living in the world. So
the importance of being a Welsh actor and drawing on that identity is viewed differently by our university students.
I'm Connor Hughes and I'm playing Joey in Road.
I'm Nicholas Thomas Curry and I'm playing Eddie within Road.
I can see the logic behind it, but I think mostly, for the most part, it's people being a little sensitive, because at the end of the day, it's still theatre for Welsh people, just because it's not necessarily about Wales or has Welsh. In a lot of cases, okay, it does help, but I wouldn't say it's completely 100% essential.
I feel that it is crucially important that we do put an importance on bringing Welsh culture into theatre. Obviously, being in Wales, we've got that stage, literally a stage, to put out our problems, our issues, our thoughts and our identities out there. So I do think it can be a steal in a way to see companies bring in constantly external actors, external directors to produce work when we've got such great actors, directors, producers already in Wales hunting for work themselves.
I know if there was a local play going on in my area, whether or not it's based in England or Wales, that wouldn't deter me from watching it or not watching it.
There's always going to be a certain aspect of people who want to see up-and-coming plays, and I think it's going to come to the point where in the future, people are going to, those plays that are coming out now who, hasn't had that funding, hasn't had the work done to it, it's going to be regretted in the future when we're still repeating the same plays over and over again and not moving forward with new plays.
However, both Connor and Nick embrace their Welsh identity.
Absolutely, I'm a Welsh actor, but if you ask me to play an English character, I'll give it a go at putting on an English accent. And I'm sure it'd be the same with an English actor. Personally, I see myself as an actor. I think the heritage thing, although it's a very nice thing and it can be beautiful in a lot of ways, I think it leads to a lot of unnecessary issues, should we say.
Do you think your Welsh identity and accent will restrict the roles you can play in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt, because that's what comes with having an accent at the end of the day. I think that's just the way it is. That's just how it is to be Welsh. Whether you're Welsh or I don't know, French, Italian, if you've got an accent, it's always going to deter certain jobs. But at the same time, that's not much to dwell on.
I used to think it was a hindrance, but the older I get, the more I realise how important it is to be Welsh. And I think that comes with like growing up and stuff. You realise like where you're from, and you find that cultural identity, and then you bring that into what you do. So whatever role I act in, whether it's in Eddie now in Road, being born in Wales, lived in Wales, I'm always going to relate it to Wales is different. Wales always has been different, and Wales has its own culture that definitely needs a place to debut, and the stage seems a perfect place for it.
Despite the claims, the National Theatre of Wales are adamant that they do all they can to support Welsh talent.
In terms of actors, we have a Welsh first casting policy, which means that we give preference to actors who are born in Wales, based in Wales, or professionally trained in Wales. So that's a kind of quite an open definition of Welshness. Yes, sometimes we cast people who aren't Welsh as well. So, and that would be because of particular demands of the project, whether that's they need to have particular skills or a particular cultural background.
It may just be a stage they're going through, but it would require work from both sides to heal the rift and bring the curtain down on this unpleasant chapter.
We want to see Welsh work. We want to see exciting projects that people want to see. We want to see them take some creative leadership. We want to see proper enthusiastic theatre that people are desperate to see, and we've got to look really long term here now.
In response to the letter from the writers came in and met with Cully and with her executive team, and there were a kind of series of meetings, and I know she's in touch. Part of our kind of ethos is that we are accessible as individuals within the company, as a kind of group of people. People, you know, the signatories on that letter know who we are, they know who Cully is. And we had also, as I was saying earlier, in our strategic planning, so it's kind of, this is a moment of, a natural and moment of kind of pausing and reflection and taking stock, looking back on what we've achieved so far and imagining what we can achieve in the next 5-10 years of Wales having an English language national theatre.
It's opening night for the USW students, and there are still some last-minute changes being made to the set. Despite this, though, the students feel they have adjusted their characters well, and the hard work in rehearsal has paid off.
Well, it starts off obviously with like language adjustments, because the play is written very northern. So that was one of the first obstacles to hit us. Understanding some characters has been hard because, again, it's obviously extremely northernly written. But we got around those obstacles through, well, watching people within Wales and seeing how those characters would be today, because they'd be different from the 80s.
However, the play went off without a hitch. The Welsh actors and references allowed minor changes made to the play to fully evolve the core issues into something relevant to a Welsh audience. Director Steve Fisher is satisfied that the experiment play achieved all its goals and targets.
So for me, it was just about reflecting the actors we had. A lot of them are Welsh actors, Welsh students, using their natural voices and trying to let them relate the story of Road to their communities and where they're from. So yeah, it felt quite important to do that. Also, they couldn't all do the northern accent, so it kind of made the decision for them. Really.
It is clear that both sides in this debate are focusing on what is best for Welsh theatre's future. However, funding is restricting what is possible, even at the highest level. Art is about expression, it's about perspective, and it's about what the artist wants to portray, whether that be their Welsh identity or not.